Hello everyone, this is SWTOR Snoopy here, back with another video. Today I have for you guys another Star Wars Republic discussion episode, and in today's episode we're going to be going over my thoughts on Ossus. So I recently played through the Republic story on the planet, and I've been through the majority of content that was added, so I'm going to be talking about what I think about Ossus in general and everything that's tied to it. Throughout this video, there will be talking points which will be timestamped in the description down below. This will help with following the video easier and finding a particular point I talk about much quicker. So that's all I have for the intro, so I hope you guys enjoy this video. If you do, then make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and let's get right into this discussion. Alrighty guys, so let's get into this discussion right now. So the first talking point that I'm going to go over is going to be a story. Now, this isn't going to be any spoilers. I'm just going to talk about what I thought and essentially what we got. Just for reference, I have only played through the Republic story. As said in the intro, that was the one I recently played. But I do plan on playing the Empire one later. But my thoughts on it were that for what it was worth, it was a pretty good setup for the next expansion. I mean, coming into this update, obviously this isn't a huge update. That's just going to be like expansion level where we have 20 billion new things to do, just a ton of missions, new level cap, and all that different stuff. This is kind of a tie-in, kind of something to anchor into the next expansion. So for what it's worth, I think it did a good job since that was the main plan. Or at least I'm assuming story-wise that was the main plan, is to have something that would anchor in to the next expansion. So personally, I thought they did a pretty decent job at that. I do like some of the mechanics and stuff that they're just continuing to show, just with how you make decisions, and then it talks about, or essentially gives you a little thing that says like how people kind of react to it occasionally. I know that they kind of implemented that with Knights of the Fallen Empire and Eternal Throne, and all the more recent stuff relating to story. But I think just keeping with that is a pretty nice sense. Obviously, if people do want to play the story, then they should keep a little trend of just having all these different decisions, just seeing, oh hey, someone reacted like this when I did, a certain task in the game, or hey, I attacked this person, I killed them, this is how someone responds. I think that's a cool mechanic that they should keep in, but personally, I think story-wise, it wasn't anything to really write home about. I mean, it just, like I said, this is kind of like a tie-in thing, similar to what Ziost was before Knights of the Fallen Empire, as in we get a little taste of what is going to just show up later, but we aren't entirely sure what direction the story is going to go in, and all the different stuff that's going to be in the game at a later date. So the next talking point is going to be expansion build-up. So as I mentioned in the last talking point, Ossus seems to be essentially the Ziost to Knights of the Fallen Empire. So what that means is that this is a planet that is going to directly tie into the next expansion, and it is just kind of preparing us for what's going to soon release in the game. I mean, this is very similar to Ziost, just in the fact that we know you had some world bosses. You're going to have an instance operation boss soon on this planet. There's going to be, there's dailies. There's a bunch of stuff that is cool and all, but like I said, if people were expecting a fully blown, just 100% huge planet, that is definitely not the case, and I really didn't expect that to be the case. So I think for what's worth and what we got, I think it is pretty decent. I mean, we got to get some new content into the game, and we got some dailies and different stuff to do, including grinding for the new pieces of gear. So I feel like this is kind of something that BioWare is giving us just to wait for when the new expansion comes out. I'm not entirely sure when that will release or at what time, or essentially the time frame at all. But I'm pretty sure, this may be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that this might be one of the last updates, at least one of the major updates until we actually get into the next expansion. Since it seems like it's really just building up to just a big story update, along with a level cap and a bunch of different things overall. So that's kind of my take on it, is that Ossus is a pretty decent planet for what it's worth, it just being the expansion build-up. but we will have to wait and see with what releases at a later date. So the next little talking point is going to be the world bosses and Datacrons. So as you can tell, this is one of the world bosses right here, which is honestly, this is something that I thought was pretty cool. Since I wasn't here for the launch, I've gotten back to the game, and it's pretty recent since this update has released. But I thought it was pretty cool to find out that you have these two world bosses just available right here on the planet. I did see some stuff on the PTS, but I never really watched too much into it or really look at the bosses themselves. But I think it is cool that they decided to incorporate these two guys onto the planet, since I think they do add some variety and allow you to do some new exciting things. I also thought that the inclusion of the Datacrons is pretty interesting, to say the least. I mean, we haven't seen this in a while, just with just putting Datacrons on play. I mean, you had Zakul, but that wasn't really too much of a plan, since there was a ton of instanced stuff. But I think this is cool because while it's not a huge planet and it doesn't have a bunch of stuff, I mean, it has a lot of stuff for what it's worth, but I mean, it's not like a fully blown planet like MacLeod or something along the lines of that. But I think with what we have, it is pretty cool. I mean, the Datacrons, just the fact that they incorporate them and include them, just really shows that they really want to make this a planet that is something people want to go on, something that people can achieve, and something that people can focus on after they complete everything that is offered here. Because, I mean, they have dailies, they have a bunch of different things, and then they also have weeklies to go after the bosses. And that's pretty cool, honestly. I mean, it gives another incentive to, hey, let's take down these bosses, let's group up, do this together. I think the game is doing a good job at bringing that stuff up. And like I said, I think it's honestly pretty cool. I'm also hyped because I know that there is an instanced operation boss that is going to be released that you can fight on this actual planet that's on the PTS. So that will be exciting to see, and that will be something to bring players back into just going into this planet and taking on some new challenges. So not only that, the next talking point is going to be a Return to Dailies. Now, I'm not going to lie, guys. I mean, with me personally, I don't do dailies that much anymore. I know that a lot of people have really just stepped away from the dailies, have gone to the heroics, and just different ways to make credits, among other things. But personally, I've always had, a kind of a soft spot for dailies. I've always thought that they were pretty fun, just to challenge. And what I mean by challenge is I would always do stuff where I'd be like, oh, hey, you know what? I'm going to try to complete these dailies as quick as possible. Or I'm just going to try different unique ways to take them on, just to add some variety. Because I know that a lot of people do dailies just because, you can make a quick buck, and you can get some extra things to buy new items. But I feel like there is more to it than just the daily grind of a new planet with dailies. But I think it's pretty cool with what they have. I mean, they have a heroic 4, just trying to incorporate some new grouping. They just have the weekly for the bosses. They just have a lot of stuff that personally I think is in the right direction. I think it is pretty smart and cool that they are trying to return to this fundamental idea of dailies. It never really left, but just to see that they are still making stuff kind of relating to it, just with the game and this new update, is very, very welcome. But as said, I know that when we got Zyos, we did get dailies as well, but it shows that they are trying to keep with that tradition. But yeah, that's my main point on a Return to Dailies. And then another point that I have, a talking point, is going to be instanced operations. And this is in particular is going towards the boss that will release on Ossus soon. I actually don't know when it will release, but like I said, it's on the PTS right now, so that is interesting. But I've watched some videos on the fight. And like I said, it's an instance boss, so it's not like we're going to get a full operation. But I think it is cool that they are just throwing that up on the PTS to have something else to wait towards the next expansion. And I don't want to just start theories on this video, but I am really hoping that the next expansion has a lot of stuff relating to group content. I know that Star Wars Republic is a game that, even though it's technically an MMO, they do focus a ton on single player. And then sometimes, multiplayer gets absolutely destroyed and kind of shafted. But I'm really hoping that the next expansion includes something relating to some intense group content or, new operation or something. But I know that a lot of people would say it's probably not going to happen. And I mean, I agree that that most likely won't happen. But I think just having an instance boss, here is pretty cool because we did get something similar on Zyos. But I am really hoping that there is something else. I just feel like this is kind of like a good step in the right direction, because I mean they are including these world bosses to get people hyped. Then they're having like a heroic force. Then they're including this boss on the PTS just for testing and whatnot. But I am pretty excited to just go ahead and take on that when it does release to the live servers. And I am also excited to see what else they tend to include. Now, the final talking point is going to be simply my overall impressions. Now, I know that I've been talking 100% positive, not really giving any critiques with this whole entire discussion. But I think overall impressions-wise, I feel like Ossus is good for what it is. And simply put, I feel like it is the Zyos just leading up to the Knights of the Fallen Empire. That's what I really just compare it to. I wasn't really expecting, I really had incredibly low expectations. And I feel like they were pretty fair just near Zyos. And I personally thought that just leading into the expansion, Zyos was good. It just included a lot of stuff to just get prepared. The only unfortunate thing is Knights of the Fallen Empire did not include really any multiplayer content. It essentially was a single player heaven, which was a huge issue, and that was really annoying. But the good thing is I feel like they are taking a step in the right direction. They have listened to the players, and they are trying to change some stuff up. But I feel like for what we got, Ossus was a good planet. Like I said, I wasn't expecting something insane like a huge planet like MacLeod or something, that they were just going to have 20 billion things to do and it was going to be the biggest planet where you could just go all over the place. But I feel like for what it is, it's a pretty decent looking planet. They have a ton of dailies, just a bunch of different stuff to do. And in general, it's just a bunch of different stuff to get prepared for the next expansion. And I think that's really the way that players should look at it. But it is something to kill time in the meantime while we wait for the new expansion and then we see what actually releases. Because that will be the thing that really kind of determines it for a lot of players is, how good will the big content patch, what will it do, what will it add, and what will we have to look forward to. But that's it. That's essentially all I have for this Star Wars Plug discussion video. I do apologize if I went all over the place. This was kind of a discussion where I just threw a bunch of words together and really just put my thoughts all out there while trying to keep in a little kind of like a system with talking points. But anyways, like I said, that's it for this video. So I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, then make sure to leave a like and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next one.